we've got to have a method that works as things get more complicated. Okay? So, you know that something add 4 makes 9. The something's got to be 5. So what we need to think of it is what was the something before I added 4? That's the way to look at it. So it was something, I added 4 to it, I got the answer 9. So I've got to think, what was it before I added 4? Now the best way to do that is to take the 4 away. So in your homework book it says, we write it out like this. So if we've got x plus 4, we then subtract the 4, because that's like undoing the adding 4. Then we have to do the same to the answer, because obviously the answer is 4 less as well. So we write 9 minus 4 on that side as well. Okay. Then it's just a case of simplifying. So if we do x add 4 but then take away 4, it's the same as having done nothing. So we can just write the x, and then we've got 9 minus 4 is actually 5. So there we get the answer.
But
5.
then what's the use of doing x plus 4 minus 4 if you can just do 9 minus 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go around the long way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what they're doing in your homework book, as they always do, is they explain it at a very basic level to try and help you understand. Because what you need to realise is that if you jump straight to the shortcut, there's a chance that you don't really understand why it's being done. So all we're doing is explaining to you exactly what's happening.
It does confuse me because I don't understand why you do x plus 4 minus 4.
Because it's getting rid of the plus 4. The whole point here, the whole point is you are undoing, I say that, undoing the add 4. So we're doing the opposite of adding 4, so it makes it like it has never happened. Alright? Now what people do, and it works fine in this case, but as it gets more complicated they make mistakes. They say, have you ever heard, we take this and we move it to the other side and swap the sign?
No.
Some people might have heard that. So what they say, I'll be careful this because I don't like this, I don't like to use it. What they say is this: if I do x plus 4 equals 9, what they say is they move this, put it on the other side, but make it a minus 4. So then it becomes x equals 9 minus 4. So we end up with the same thing. Okay, x equals 5. So you might say, oh well, that works, it's fine. But the trouble is, people don't really understand, because that's not what's happening. It's a shortcut. It's a way of trying to get someone that says they don't understand to understand quickly. But what I need from you is to understand that what you're actually doing is you are removing the add 4 by doing the opposite of what add 4 is. So you have to do the opposite operation. So that's important. Okay? It's the opposite operation. So it's not moving it. We never move. Can I say that? We never move things. Okay? That's, for me, this is one of the most important things that you need to understand in maths. You don't move things. That will help you understand more complicated ones. It's not moving, it's undoing what was done. So plus 4 gets undone by doing subtract 4, and it then becomes nothing. Okay. Does that make sense? Then hopefully that will explain some of the others to you. It'll explain why it works. Are you writing your notes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll just pause. So, remembering that it's not moving, it's undoing. If we have a look at the next type, so for instance, if we say 3x equals 21. Now that means 3 times x, yeah? Okay, So what it means is we've multiplied x by 3. That's what that means. So we had x and we times it by 3. Now I said you don't move things, you do the opposite of what happened. So what's the opposite of timesing by 3, Sophie?
Divide.
Dividing
So
by
21, 3.
3. So what we do is in your book, I think they still use this symbol. So divide by
Is there any other symbol?
3. Well, we've written it as a fraction. I'll do that as well. So we divide it by 3, and on the same side, on the other side, we have to do the same thing. Divide by 3. So, remember, this divide by 3 undoes the times by 3. So that's where it goes. It disappears. So it becomes just 1x. So 3x's divided by 3 leaves you 1x. Not nothing, it leaves you 1x. And then 21 divided by 3 is 7. Alright. So I think that's what it's doing in your homework. Now just a note then, to write it in a different way, instead of doing divide by 3 like this, what we could write is it like,
3x over 3.
exactly, tell me the one. 3x over 3 equals 21.
It is exactly like numbers, because you could do, because if it was 2 numbers, you could put it on top. But for some strange reason, I thought you couldn't do a number and a letter on top.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Like,
Like we said, you can do with algebra what you can do with numbers.
But then you wrote it and it suddenly made sense.
There you go. Well, that's good. Alright. So, just to check another one then. So it's always the same. So if we then did x divided by 4.
Is this another question?
Yep, another question. So x divided by 4 equals, what should we have? 9. So again, we have to look at what is the opposite of dividing by 4.
9 times
Okay, so we do times by 4. So we would say it's 4 times x over 4 equals 9 times 4.
36.
So we've got 1x equals 36. Alright? Now, I know some of you are going to want to talk shortcuts. Okay? So I'm just going to show you how potentially it's a shortcut. Let's say I have x over 4 equals 9 again. What you might get to the stage of is writing it a bit quicker. So instead of having times 4 times 4, what I do now, me and what the older students do because they've got full understanding, is they'll just write it on the side. So they'll say times 4, and they understand it gets done to both sides, and they would then just write x equals 36. Okay?
4 times 4 is 36.
So x divided by 4 times 4 is x, and 9 times 4 is 36. Yeah? Another way that people might see it, alright, just one more option, is if I write x over 4 is 9 again. Sometimes people just write, well, I'm going to do times 4 times 4. That's another way of doing it. So I know it's x equals 36. So actually we've got 3 different ways of writing, but it's the same thing. It's just some people write it in a different way. It's not different. Everyone understands that it gets done to both things. Here it's clear. Here, this one is technically the best one, technically perfectly written. However, no one, as you get better and better and better at maths, you might choose to write it a bit quicker, a bit.
So as you get older, you might not write it like that.
Exactly. But at the moment in your homework book, they're getting you to practice so that you understand. It's all about understanding at this stage, not about doing things as quick as possible. It's about you understanding. As you get better, you can do it quicker. Yes, Nico? What would you like, Nico? Let's not be silly about this. I know you've not been writing your notes, so talk to me.
Why would they show you the hard way? It's harder than the other way. Like
It's not harder. As I've just said, it makes you fully understand. Do what's actually being done. And then when you get something more complicated, so for instance, if I were to show you something like, now you don't need to write this one down, guys, but let's say I gave you something like 3x minus 1 square rooted over 5 equals 19. Alright. Now we've got to show some working. So we get more and more difficult. Now I know that the first thing I have to do is times by 5. Now I could write it as 5 times, but what I would do personally is just write, I'm going to times 5. This is how I would do it, and I'm left with the square root of 3x minus 1 equals 5 times 19. Who knows that? 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 9 is 45. So that's 95. The opposite of square rooting, okay, is squaring. So I'll square both sides. So I get left with 3x minus 1 is 95 squared, which I'm going to have to do that on my calculator. So I'm just going to leave it. Then I'm going to add 1. So I'm going to write that. So I've got then 3x equals 95 squared plus 1.
190.
And then I'm going to divide by 3. So divide by 3, so I get x equals 95 squared plus 1, all divided by 3, and I get my answer. Now, that's much more complicated, but you can see how the method that we're using is exactly what I've done. Now that is using a shortcut, right, in notation. Go on then, Sophie, question.
95 squared is 190.
95 squared is?
191.
It's not.
It is.
95 squared
Yeah.
is 95 times 95.
Oh.
Okay? So if you've got your calculator, you could do that. Tabitha, question.
Actually, I think I think give me the name of the...
Right.